For a lot of people, Cyberpunk 2077 with Keanu Reeves really stole the show yesterday. With this whole process, they obviously revealed that Keanu is in the game, but even further, they posted a new trailer, a new kind of smaller trailer that actually might be something different, which I'll talk about in this video, and a ton of other details that have been posted online since then. And we also got at least one secret message already, but it looks like there might be another secret message or ARG starting up right now. In this video, what I'm going to be doing is actually breaking down all of these details, explaining to you some of the things we saw in the trailer, what they actually mean or might not mean, but even further, why some of this should be of great interest to you. So one of the first big pieces of news, of course, if you somehow have missed it, is the release date for Cyberpunk 2077, that being April 16th, 2020. A lot of us were holding out for that 2019 release date. Obviously, we're not getting that, but at the very least, we are getting an early 2020 release date, and they likely have quite a bit more in store. We know of at least 2 more gameplay presentations that will be shown in the next few days. And outside of that, since this announcement, you actually can now pre-order the game. You can find all the various pre-order options on Cyberpunk's website. Do note, if you actually buy it from GOG, which is owned by CD Projekt, the developer of this game, you do get exclusive benefits from there. But even further, there also is a collector's edition. They posted a video yesterday of them actually unboxing this collector's edition. If you are interested in checking that out, we're on the fence about buying it. Although something interesting about that, in the US at least, for whatever reason, the PC version of the game will only be sold digitally. So if you wanted a collector's edition for the PC version and you live in the US, you cannot get that. You'll have to buy a console version of the collector's edition. They didn't explain why this is as of right now, but it is a thing for the US only. But either way, outside of that, taking a closer look at the cinematic trailer that was posted, there's a lot of interesting things you can take away from it. So one of the first scenes of interest, what you're seeing here is V, the protagonist of Cyberpunk, actually getting out of a battle cab or one of Dex's armored vehicles. One thing important to note around V is we see him in these scenes. V could be a boy or a girl. Right at the start of the game, you do get the choice to pick. During the last gameplay, we saw V as a girl. It's the same character, just the gender is swapped between this trailer and some of the previous. We see V walking into the no-tell motel, but from there we do see that V is meeting Dexter Deshawn. This character might seem familiar as he actually was featured in the 48 minutes of gameplay we saw in the past. He's described as a fixer. You can get illegal contracts to do burglaries, kidnappings, or assassinations. These basically act as the middleman between mercenaries and clients. On Cyberpunk's store page, V is described as a mercenary outlaw, so it seems natural for us to deal with people like Dex pretty often. Through the dialogue, we do learn that V was tasked with getting some kind of chip for Dex, but that in the process, V actually created quite a ruckus, and in the subsequent scenes, we see that Dex is pretty unhappy about that. So as far as what this chip can be, there's a couple of interesting explanations. We see in the background of one of the scenes that the chip is to be used with one of the trauma team kits. The trauma team are seen also in that 48 minutes of gameplay. Think of them basically as rapid response paramedics, but they're also one of the most powerful corporations in Cyberpunk 2077. So it is plausible that whatever we're trying to get into here with the chip is pretty valuable. There's some speculation that this was a continuation of the quest we see in the 48 minutes of gameplay for Cyberpunk, the other quest assigned by Dex. In that, in essence, we have to go get a robot from the Maelstrom gang, and towards the end of that, you actually get a chip implanted in your head to control the robot. That chip looks very similar to the chip we see here, so I actually could think that is a plausible explanation. There's some other things that don't necessarily line up, like the cars from the 2 trailers are notably different. In that gameplay, Dex says you're going to meet at the Afterlife Club, while in this, you actually are meeting at the No-Tell Motel. But if we do assume these are actually the same quest, and now we're just seeing the end of it going back to Dex, which we never saw in the gameplay, that could have some pretty interesting implications. During the older gameplay, we are presented with several different options. In particular, as you actually approach the Maelstrom gang's headquarters. There you're going to run into Meredith. She's working with Militech and also wants the chip that you're after, and by which you actually start to work with her to actually get the chip, kind of undermining Dex. Maybe the ruckus created by siding with Meredith, by actually having to shoot your way out of the Maelstrom base, is what leads to this conflict with Dex, or maybe you decide to betray Militech, and that's what eventually ends you up here. But either way, what's described here seems to definitely be highlighting choice and consequence in Cyberpunk 2077. As a result of our action to actually get into a firefight and maybe not take the sneak route, we are seeing consequence with characters later on. And alternate explanation is this chip actually could be key to living forever. On the store page of Cyberpunk, the description of V is actually extended to say, you play as V, a mercenary outlaw, going after a one-of-a-kind implant that is the key to immortality. Regardless, it definitely seems like that will be a major theme or objective throughout Cyberpunk's story. Through some more of this gameplay, we do see other things like mantis blades, we do see ourselves getting hacked. This is done by another recurrent character, that with T-Bug. She appeared both in the 2018 E3 trailer and also in the 48 minutes of gameplay, in which we also saw other uses of her hacking mechanic, something that will likely play a pretty large role in gameplay. But then as V actually ends up getting shot by Dex, and eventually we do wake up to Keanu Reeves, who's playing Johnny Silverhand. This is another existing character, and if it wasn't totally clear through this, Johnny Silverhand is actually a hologram in this. He was a famous guitarist and singer, but he was reported dead. So seemingly the technology exists to maintain a hologram that is pretty lifelike in Cyberpunk. But during character creation, he could be chosen as your childhood hero. To put more emphasis on that hologram aspect, we actually see him as a hologram more clearly in one of the other trailers that I'll talk about in a moment. But even further, something pretty interesting. As you're waking up, you do have all of those prompts coming on screen. It's basically running through all of your different systems and checking them. It only appears for a frame or two, but it actually does describe how a virus was found and how you have to remove that potential threat. It wouldn't shock me if Johnny Silverhand is uploaded into the net and he might be that actual virus, or if that could somehow tie into this. Overall, I found the cinematic trailer to be interesting. I think it speaks to some of the broad strokes with the game, some of the things that will be present, some of the options we will have, although not actually seeing genuine gameplay is never my forte. The cinematic was cool, but shifting over to the actual gameplay, I think, is where things get very interesting. Although even around the gameplay itself, there's a lot of interest. We've known for a while now that at this year's E3, CD Projekt is presenting two separate gameplay presentations. One's going to be a public one that is shown at their booth, and one is a private one that influencers and media are invited to. Fortunately, I did get an invite to that. And it seems like this second trailer or clips bunched together is actually snippets from one of those gameplay demos, likely the public one, because reportedly the two are different. Now, unfortunately, for those of you not attending E3, it doesn't seem like you'll actually be able to see this at least anytime soon. During that collector's edition video I referenced earlier in this video, you could see people logging into an SSH server. If you actually try and do that yourself, it does work, and it gives you access to a Dropbox link that does contain a message from CD Projekt. In that, they discuss how they're happy to show off their new gameplay demo as well as the new cinematic trailer that we just saw. But as far as the gameplay goes, they do confirm that the only way you're going to see it is if you actually attend E3, or later on if you attend Gamescom, or it seems like it will be posted at the public dev Q&A at PAX in August. They immediately acknowledge that people will be unhappy around this. I do encourage you to read this write-up, and mostly they describe that they want to get the most out of all of the work it took to put that demo together, and that's why they're holding off making it public so it doesn't ruin it for other people who see it at some of these later conventions. And in a separate paragraph, they actually talk about the two separate editions and pre-orders. Again, I'll have a link to it on Dropbox if you want to check it out for yourself. So technically, it's never explicitly confirmed that what we're seeing here are clips from the larger gameplay demo that will be shown privately. It seems pretty likely that that's what this is. This looks pretty cool. There's quite a few things that stand out. Again, you get that second look at Johnny Silverhand while dealing with some other kind of crime boss of some sort. We see some motorcycle action, which looks like awesome gameplay, but even further in the background of that one, you could actually see a spaceport, like where they launch space shuttles. Could be pretty cool to see something interesting going on there, even like a space DLC. As you see somebody fighting with the training robot, you could actually see you have the option to override safeguards and kill nearby enemies, as well as there's a certain hacking skill associated with getting that. We see this new whip weapon that actually comes out of your wrist, which is just awesome. I'm really excited to get to experience stuff like that. It's verbally said by this woman that we've gone to the other side, which could mean we died when we actually get shot in the cinematic trailer by Dex. Maybe that death is something that's like an early quest and has to happen, being a main part of the story. Maybe Dex doesn't always kill you, but you always end up dying, and that's how you get introduced into Johnny Silverhand, who maybe ends up being in your head and becomes a main character. All speculation, but also all really interesting. hypothetically in just 2 days time, I'll get to see this full gameplay and I'll be able to tell you exactly what's going on here. We also do know there's going to be an actual event during E3. Someone from CD Projekt is going to talk about the past, present, and future of the company itself, but also does say Cyberpunk 2077 will be discussed there. But that's not all. It's been pretty clear over the past couple of weeks that CD Projekt values even the people that can't attend E3. And even though you're not going to see the gameplay, people at E3 will, seemingly there will be something, as suggested by this recent tweet sent out by the Cyberpunk game Twitter account. This message was decoded and reportedly does say, "Seems you're not among the sheep after all, want to play a game, watch for the beeps." Not entirely sure where that's going. It certainly can be an ARG of sorts. CD Projekt has definitely done teases hidden in the files, as we saw earlier in this video, with past games, and especially with Cyberpunk. The game and certain segments of it definitely lend itself to that. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff on the way. If you aren't subscribed already, I really encourage you to do so. But with all that being said, I thank you for watching again, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.